What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is May 16th of 2021. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, I want to spend some time to dive straight into answering a very important question, and that is, have we seen a top in the cryptocurrency market? And in this video, I'm going to be spending some time to take more of a neutral approach. I don't think we've seen the absolute peak in the market, but if you've been looking at the Bitcoin or Ethereum chart and feel a little bit off put, you're probably in the right. I think that we might be entering into kind of a mid-cycle top here for the cryptocurrency markets, and I'll kind of build into that as we go throughout the video. So let's go ahead. We'll dive into it, guys. No need to fret on anything. No need to open up your exchange or wallet accounts just yet. Let's go ahead and spend some time to dive into the data. So taking a look over the last 24 hours here, we can see that there's still a variety of cryptocurrencies that, again, are trending in double-digit territory. But the thing that I always like to focus on, one thing that I see so many people get caught up on when they look at coin market cap, this is what most people are looking at here. It's not a bad place to be looking. You get a lot of good reaching market data on the top 100 plays, and you can go to the next page, right? But the thing here I want to focus on is whether you're looking at the 24/7 day, percentage gains here. I don't like to focus on who's the absolute top winner of the market. That's not how you're going to win out in the long term. Buying into hype is not the best move in most cases and circumstances. What I want to observe here as a trader, as an investor, is I want to know, are there more players in the green than there are in the red? Right? I'm not so much just focused about, are my plays in the top three or top five here? I do care about that. I want to see that more on the 7-day chart or 7-day percentage column here. But as I look across the board of the market, I'm seeing a lot less green and a lot more red here over the last few days. Now, nothing too significant over the last 24 hours, but if we take a look at the last 7 days, right, we see that there are a lot more plays here in double-digit red territory than there are in double-digit green territory, right? So we got a few exceptions down here, but for the most part, the majority of the market here is in the red, right? Now, there's an important reason why we want to focus on this here because just about 2, 3 weeks back, vast majority of the market was in double-digit or triple-digit green territory, with very few exceptions down in maybe single-digit green territory or potentially neutral or red territory. Now, why am I spending so much time focusing on this? Well, it's important when we're talking about trend shifts. It's not a matter of just looking at one specific coin in the market. It's about seeing if liquidity is entering or exiting in the broader market because we can see that in price. Price tells us this. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into Bitcoin here. Now we're looking at BLX. This is not the current price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a little bit higher than this right now, around $47,670. We'll dive into that chart in a moment, but this is BLX. It's the long-term standing chart for Bitcoin here. And one thing that we've been talking about as far back as late March has been this continuing trend of higher lows and higher highs that have been really giving people confidence that Bitcoin was a solid investment, that it was a good time to be in the market. And that's similar to other markets in this case. Generally speaking, the S&P 500, after having, even though these big 50% corrections and then these massive rallies upward, we're always setting in higher lows and higher highs. And also through intra parts of the cycle, just like within a couple months or a couple weeks apart, we can see that there's generally higher lows and higher highs in a bull market. It doesn't really matter what sector or industry or financial asset class you're investing in. It's a good sign because it shows that people are buying at higher premiums when there's corrections, and they're also buying higher into bull markets and the rallies in the market. Well, one thing that we talked about, again, that was very, very important to focus on, and I'll take it here to the monthly chart so it's just kind of a little bit more clear and you guys can see it, was keeping in mind the logarithmic line of resistance. Now, I know a lot of people would look at this, and they look at the line of resistance here for Bitcoin and say, oh my gosh, Nick, is the peak of this market cycle in. We've come up here and, whether or not, depending on how you've drawn your logarithmic line of resistance, some will say we did touch it, some will say we didn't. I'm not here really to say whether it did or not, because it really doesn't matter. It's obviously pressing up against a line that has held back Bitcoin through every single cycle since back here in 2010. Right? So it does hold significance, and no wonder Bitcoin is facing some resistance. Again, we've pressed this since March, but during this time period, we've not only been long on altcoins, and we'll visit altcoins as a topic here in a little bit, but we talked about how this is not a terrible thing because as much as we are expecting Bitcoin to possibly go sideways for a little while and possibly go to lower price ranges than where it's at now, we believe that this is a cycle midpoint. A cycle midpoint is where, generally speaking, you have a rally in this case, you set a pretty significant top for the next coming weeks or months, and then after that, you start to continue that cycle and really set an official market top for the overall cycle. And that's what I think we're going through right now. I don't believe, guys, in this era of massive money printing and also as crypto just generally grows as a new alternative asset class, that Bitcoin 65K, which I think was the actual high, I'll get the official number, so it's right under 65K, would be the top. I really don't think a simple, little over 3x from the all-time highs from back in 2017 is enough for this cycle. Because in previous cycles, we've seen much larger gains here. From the previous 2013 high to here in 2017, we made a 1,500% leap up, right? Just to compare it here, if this is the market peak, right, we've only gone up about 236%, right? I think that it's very understandable here that Bitcoin would have more room to go from its previous all-time highs in the overall cycle. And again, bear in mind, guys, right? Like as we take a look at this chart, it's important to not denominate the fact or to ignore the fact here that we had multiple months of upward green momentum, really fast-paced momentum, that again, like back here, we shot ahead of where we should have been in the cycle. This cycle has been littered with periods of time where things are overtly optimistic, fast moving, and periods of stagnation and silence. And it looks like we might be having the same thing play out here that would go into that discussion point of the expanding cycle theory going into late 2022 for the Bitcoin market top and officially breaking through this line of resistance. So again, take my position as an optimistic one. Though we are trying to be grounded and rooted in some kind of conservative mindset here, at the same time, this is definitely one that's still calling for Bitcoin in the next year or so to come up here towards a much higher valuation between 150, 200K per Bitcoin and breaking past a line that Bitcoin has never broken before. Okay, so I've rambled on enough about that. There's another important chart here, and that was talking about those higher lows and higher highs. Well, what we started to do is we started to set in lower lows, right? We've just set in another one here, roughly speaking. Whether or not we break through is an important question that we'll have to see over the next day or so, right? But we've got these lower lows, and also as we actually drew this chart here, this red line back here in late April, and it's ironic that Bitcoin is literally rode right around it. I've not modified this, guys. Like it's just one of those weird scenarios. But again, I don't, the line wasn't there in that case, ironically enough, as much as it is accurate to it. It wasn't there to show you guys where I thought Bitcoin's price would be on one specific day. It's aiming to show you all my point about lower significant highs and lower significant lows. And you can start to see here that price is telling us that it's time for further lows, that the market is not as optimistic as it was when it was pushing the trend this way, right? We started to fade on that momentum. The lows got closer and closer. The highs got tighter and tighter, right? And then we started to now break that dichotomy and we started to establish a dichotomy here where the actual trend is reversed, right? So hopefully you guys can see that quite well and stuff and get that point overall. But anyway, we've come a long way, guys. I mean, really just back in December of 2020, we were at 20K Bitcoin, and we're still more than double that. And that's a seismic move for Bitcoin and market valuation, the likes of which we've never seen before. Sure, we've seen larger percentage gains in the past. That's true with every previous cycle, right? It was always larger in percentage gains. But in the sense of market cap gain, we've made some serious leaps and bounds, and Bitcoin has well performed against any other market out there. Now, another good sign of this on the macro level, and this is one of many different types of indicators you guys can use, is taking a look at the grayscale GBTC, or the exchange traded note financial product for Bitcoin issued by Grayscale, and taking a look at the premium or the lack thereof. One thing I got to say, like it's a gripe of mine, and I don't know if there's actually a true point to this in English. I really don't like when people use a premium when there's a negative. I think about that being a discount in this case, right, to the fair value. But anyways, again, I like how here in the CoinDesk article they talk about the grayscale discount because everyone always thinks, when you hear premium, you think, oh, you're paying like a premium in this case, you're paying higher than the original amount, right? And that used to be the case for Grayscale's GBTC product. This was a way where people with a traditional brokerage account could get access to Bitcoin. And they usually had to end up paying a premium because there just wasn't enough shares. Well, Grayscale went on a buying binge back in the later part of 2019, and that not only did play a role in the supply and demand of Bitcoin, leading to a price appreciation alongside other companies like MicroStrategy, but outside of that as well, we've now seen ever since January that we've been on a near downtrend where we've now started to see a discount where you can buy GBTC at a discount comparative to the actual fair value Bitcoin that it holds. Right? Now, some people say that this is a cause for concern that you wouldn't want to buy GBTC because maybe people aren't trusting in them in this case, or maybe they feel like Bitcoins have gotten stolen or this, that, right? No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with the fact that Grayscale bought up a ton of Bitcoin, probably a little bit more than they should have, in order to meet the short term demand. And they bought plentiful amounts to where there just aren't buyers in brokerage accounts who want to buy Bitcoin at this point, at least compared to the amount that are there. Considering also that there are some limitations where some retail investors can't get access to GBTC, right? So, bearing that in mind, right, it's an important note here that we are getting to a point where that demand is not as eccentric as it used to be. And until we start to see some of these premiums getting fixed, we can be rest assured that the trend is probably going to continue here until we start seeing those higher lows and higher highs and other fundamental and technical metrics like the grayscale premium and discount, right? Until we start seeing those premiums come back, we're probably still going to continue here on the downtrend. So that's something important to note here. Now let's go ahead. You guys have heard me talk about Bitcoin long enough. Let's go ahead and talk about altcoins. Everyone was talking about a Bitcoin super cycle this time around. But I got to say, we had a real altcoin super cycle, in my opinion. 120% gain here in market dominance over 20 weeks, here from the end of 2020 to where we are now in May, right? Right. Now, technically, on an actual percentage basis, altcoins made up about 27% of the market back here in late December, and now they make up a little bit under 60%. They just tapped 60% here over the last couple days, or right around there. This is very similar percentage-wise to the last cycle in 2017. We went up 124% there, whereas this time around, we went up a little bit more, about 2 percentage points in altcoin dominance gains, but over a much more healthier time period versus the 5 weeks that we had back here. Should this be a bit of a cause for concern that altcoin dominance, albeit maybe it doesn't pull back dramatically right away, that it is getting towards the later phase here, probably in the last week or so of the cycle? Well, the last, significant point of resistance that again we talked about back here at 49% that we should watch out for, we're right under it. We're right under 60%. I got to be honest with you guys, this doesn't look like the optimal time to start taking eccentric risk. It doesn't mean I'm selling everything in this case, right? But I'm definitely keeping an eye out on this. Let's take a look at ETH BTC, right? We talked about a target range of 0.08, for each ETH to BTC. We're trading a little bit below that right now. We technically went above it the other day to 0.082. You guys can follow these numeric values up here as I highlight them on the chart. So it's 0.0824. Again, ETH has had a phenomenal rally, guys. It's already generally been on an uptrend here since all the way back since September 2019. We talked about, we flipped positive on altcoins back then, right? And since then, we've really started to break away and have a nice exponential rally here, right? But this looks like it's time for a little bit of resistance, right? And if we take a look here at the previous points of resistance, support and resistance in the past, this is a good midpoint line to watch. That again is growing, albeit on Ethereum's long-term chart on the logarithmic chart. But it looks like we need a little bit of a cool down here. And I say that as someone who right now is positioned eccentrically in altcoins, right? But I don't do anything extremely rash, right? I always want to make sure I watch here and wait for some kind of confirmation. And this weekly candle here still looks pretty good. But if we see, a week, week and a half, 2 weeks more of price action here where it's holding at this range, we really start to see a pullback, then that's where I'll be a little bit more concerned. It might circulate back into Bitcoin, maybe into stable coins, right? I only do these kind of things on rare occasions, guys, when I'm not getting a good feeling about the market. But right now, things are still holding up okay. It just seems like we're in the later half, in the later stages of the later half here, where I'm not taking any eccentric risk. Let's take a look at the dollar chart here for Ethereum, right? The weekly chart, right? I'll even take it here if you guys want to the biweekly chart, right? Just to kind of keep our time frames a little more reasonable so we can see the long-term price action since back here in 2015. Again, take a look at this kind of midpoint line here. Point of previous resistance, support, right? Previous support broken through, treated as resistance, here, we've broken through it. In the longer term sense of things, guys, I still think we've got 10K for Ethereum. I think that that figure is very reasonable when EIP 1559 and ETH 2.0 come out and DeFi continues to grow and become more usable. But right now, we have to bear in mind that just a little over a year ago, Ethereum was trading at $88.20. Do you think there might be some people who are probably considering taking profits at this point? Do you think it might be good to see a nice, healthy correction, one in which we haven't seen really since back in March? You could talk about these small dips here being corrections. I don't consider this corrections. I'm talking about a good whopping 50% pullback, which we haven't seen in a very, very long time. So again, not trying to be negative, guys, just trying to be realistic here, right? Trying to keep in mind that as much as we're optimistic on the market, we should be careful and make sure that we know how to lock in profits. Now, there is something else that I want to talk about, kind of like the last sign of kind of optimism here where I see liquidity rushing to before this altcoin cycle ends, is going in here into the later part of May, starting off for DeFi summer. Now, I understand here that the summer's mainly June, July, and August, or at least it is in the US run from a certain part of the world. It does change for different regions, but you can see here, broadly speaking, that if we take a look here at Uni against Ethereum, we take a look at Compound versus Ethereum, and Aave versus Ethereum, you either find plays at really nice discount ranges or some pretty good green price action here where they've made some solid gains. Uni in this case, though it doesn't seem like much, has already made about a 20% rebound here, around 15-20% rebound against Ethereum. So whereas Ethereum's pulling back, Uni's holding up against ETH here, right? And it's at a range here where historically, right, this was previous resistance, now acting as support. So I would say if you're making any altcoin bets here, it should be in fundamental DeFi altcoins that are built on top of Ethereum, that are going to immensely benefit and see increasing volume once network fees really start to get to reasonable territories, right? Gas fees being high doesn't help Uniswap. LP fees do help the Uniswap protocol. They do increase people providing liquidity to the platform in the new capital efficient ways Uniswap offers, right? And the same goes here for Compound and Aave. When people can start to use layer 2 solutions, and I have to give credit where it's due, Aave integrating Polygon and a lot of the layer 2 solutions has been staying ahead of the curve here. And I think that's why it's performing so nicely here over the last few days. But I digress here, guys. Again, the last kind of phase that we want to watch for here is for altcoins to finally actually pick up some steam. And that's where we might see altcoin dominance hold up here for a little while, kind of like we did last time here, right? Where value circulates out of Ethereum and other altcoin plays like Dogecoin and goes into a lot of the fundamental altcoin plays. It's not guaranteed to happen, just saying that it's the one last thing I'm really looking for before we consider taking in some profits. I got to tell you guys, I'm at the point here where as much as I like altcoins a lot, at the same time, this is that transitional period, right, where we're starting to look at rotating back into the safer assets like Bitcoin, maybe even considering still holding some Ethereum and then also considering some stable coins, right? But again, we haven't done anything yet, guys. We're going to keep an eye on how the market treats it. We're going to keep neutral minded until we get that real confirmation, and we'll see what happens. But again, above all, guys, there's still so much more opportunity, in my opinion, for the broader cycle. I don't think we've even seen the beginning of it in this case. I think that we've still got a ways to go for Bitcoin and the broader crypto space. It just might be that we're embarking in the near future on a cool down. which happens in plentiful amounts of markets across the world. All right. So, anyways, guys, if you like this video, please consider dropping a like. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon if you haven't. If you like this kind of rational, level-headed content. And outside of that as well, guys, if you want to support me in any way, you can always check out our newsletter. It has a discussion group, my percentage portfolio allocation, all kinds of really cool tools that can help you hopefully get an edge on the market and see how I'm positioning myself. But that being said, everyone, if you're interested in that, I'll leave it down below in the description. That all being realized, have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.